Welcome back to Realize Your Potential with Mike and Travis. We are so excited to have you back. This is a topic that we are so excited to dive into. As you know, last week we kind of gave a recap of where we were, and now we are ready to really dive into the series on strategy and planning. But before we start with that first section, Mike, what do we need people to do?
Like, subscribe, and comment.
Please.
Send us a DM. Send us an instant messenger. If
Please.
you got pigeons around, shoot one up in the air. Have it come to the crib and
Pelican
make
fly.
a comment.
Yeah, and don't, you could share it with a couple people here and there, if you really, if you feel inclined, slide it in somebody's DMs, make their day, help them out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so now really want to dive into this episode. This episode is going to really focus on the miracle questions. And so, Mike, what the heck is that? What are miracle questions?
Well, the miracle question is this. You wake up tomorrow and you notice that something's different. And you can't explain it, but you just feel like this is the change. This is what I want to achieve. This is specifically what I want to do, right? And so a miracle has happened, and all the things that you would envision would be going on, right? And so it would encourage and influence you to be thinking about what are those things, right? It forces the question around, what do I want to achieve, right? And I'll just give you a quick example.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I wake up. It's snowing outside. Over here in the valley. It's snowing outside. I know that a miracle has happened. And for me, that miracle would be I want to snowboard outside of my house, right? and so I want to achieve to be able to be a better snowboarder. That's what sort of I was thinking about, et cetera, et cetera. But what would need to happen is for me to be able to learn how to snowboard, get my board, my bindings, snow gear, etc. So if I'm sitting down with someone and they're asking me this to sort of help influence my thinking around what I want to achieve, snowboarding would be that, right? To be a better snowboarder, even know how to snowboard. So the goal of the miracle question is to get you in this futuristic thinking with what you want to achieve. And I noticed that sometimes when I ask people this, it's similar to when I ask people, what are your functional strengths? And people pause. They're like, I never really thought about that, right?
Yeah.
And it's because it starts to put you in this thinking that you're really not used to doing,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of it, how I parallel it to what we've been talking about, right? Is like, what if my passion was, so let's stick with your example, right? My passion is snowboarding. Like I've identified that. That's what I love to do, right? I have no clue how to make money doing that. I'm not the greatest snowboarder in the world, but I know every time that I think about it, that's just what I want to do, right? And so that's kind of like the first step in our series when we were talking about identifying passion. Like, this is what I like to do. The second step is, okay, how do I get my mindset right? Because as you probably know, because you're a snowboarder and I don't, so I can tell you where my mindset would be is fear, right? Like, I don't want to fall down the mountain. What if I can't do it? What if I can't learn how to snowboard? Man, how am I going to get all the right equipment? It's so expensive. Who's going to teach me how to snowboard? Like, do I know how to do it the right way? And so getting my mindset in the right frame of mind to be successful with snowboarding is a step I have to take before I even go out and buy the gear and do the stuff and hire somebody, right? I got to make sure that my mindset is in the right place. Yeah, that I can commit to it. And then it's like, okay, cool. My mind's in the right place. I know what my passion is. Okay, how the heck do I snowboard, right? And then I got to reach out to a professional, right? Or maybe there's a professional in my circle, right? And you talked about this in our last episode, and almost every guest has talked about, like, who do you keep in your circle, and do you have the right people in there? So maybe you have somebody in your circle, but if you don't, you can reach out to a professional. They can guide you through the steps that some of the professionals who we've talked to have talked about, right? And how to be a snowboarder. But even when getting a professional, now you just talked about, okay, great, you're passionate about snowboarding, your mindset's in the right place, you're ready to hire a coach. What is it for? Right? What do you envision at the end of this tunnel? What is it? Are you going to be a professional snowboarder? If you so that miracle question, and I love how you framed it, is like you wake up tomorrow and all of these things are out of your way, and here we are. What does that look like and feel like? And now you're starting to get into the specificity of what that passion really looks like. Am I kind of reading that correctly, Mike, and how you explained what the benefit of that question is? The miracle questions? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so now if I'm somebody saying I want to go ahead and win this, right, and do this, or that might be a different plan than I want to make money teaching people how to snowboard, right? Like wouldn't that guide you in a different direction? If I want to be an Olympic snowboarder, or man, I don't really care about that. I just want to be really good enough to teach people how to do it, right? And so
it definitely frames things, hopefully, with what it is that you want to achieve and the direction you want to move into. So,
and sometimes what I find is when I work with clients is that they know what their passion is, right? Like I'm passionate about this, but they're all over the place about this specific piece, which is how do I turn my passion into what I really want to do, right? Like the concrete, actionable, what do I do every single day, right? And the example that we just used, being an Olympic snowboarder versus somebody who teaches people how to snowboard, they both have a passion for snowboarding, but how they apply that passion will be very different, and the steps they need to take will be very different, right?
Yep. Maybe you can take us through another example with sort of this futuristic thinking in mind, with trying to create goals with what you and I done or currently doing.
Yeah. So if you think about as we sat here, right, and most people will be like, oh, you guys just created a YouTube channel, right? And that's great. But it was actually part of our plan when it comes to what our overall goal is, right? And our overall goal was, first, how do we help people, right? Like, how do we take this knowledge that we have and pay it forward just because people have paid it forward to us? The second piece was, how do we do this activity that we both really love, which is coaching and consulting and training? How do we do that and put it in a structured way and do it with someone that we really care about, right? Do it with our best friend, right? And how do we do that, right?
Yeah.
And then the last piece was, how do we make sure that it's monetarily feasible for us to take care of our families doing this thing that we love, right? And so we identified what our passion was, and our passion was coaching and doing that together, right? And really, what does that look like? And so we identified that, but there's a bunch of different avenues you could take there. And so as we started to get our mindset in the right place and focus on, like you met one of our coaches in Lori, and we paid for that service and all of those things, right? We then had to go through the miracle question. What does this look like in a perfect world, Mike? Like what does this look like? And so we started to whiteboard, and what we came up with was, here's our financial goals that would allow us to do this as our full-time employment, right? We go, okay, so then we started working backwards, right? We did our miracle board and we did our miracle questions and all of that stuff. And then we had to start working backwards. And these are going to be steps that you're going to take people through in terms of planning, right? We knew what our end goal was, but we had to figure out what were the right steps to get us to that end goal, right? And that took some planning. I don't want to kind of give away the whole, what we did, because I think we could talk about that a little bit. Yeah, I think we can talk about that a little bit later in future episodes. But that's how we got to the miracle question section. Is we knew what our passion was, and we were in the right frame of mind to do it, and we sought the appropriate help. And then we were at a point of, what does this look like? And so we wrote a goal on our board, and really, for us, it was like, okay, how do we get to this number of clients in 2.5 years? And if we can get to that many clients in 2.5 years, we're at a point where we don't have to stay at our current jobs from a financial perspective. Now, if we wanted to stay at our jobs because we enjoy what we do, I know I really like EV Box. You know, that's great. That's awesome, right? But how could we create a business that was self-sustaining for years and years and years and years to come, if that was what we chose? And so this channel actually became, it's not the end goal, right? It's actually a step that we came up with as we did these steps that we're going to take you guys through. It was just one of the many steps to help us get to what our actual end goal was, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Great example, great framework in terms of trying to articulate more about, you know, what is our process of how we define our end spot, right? And the concept that we sometimes use with people to help folks wrap their heads around what we're trying to get at is, tomorrow you wake up, a miracle happens, what does that look like for you, right? Then that allows us to continue to ask powerful questions, to pull out more so, and continue sort of, I see it as like this funnels, like you have all this stuff going on and we try to pare it down to get really succinct around what is my end goal and what do I want to achieve. Right.
Yeah. And as we talked about, we're not just going through these steps and saying, hey, this is what you should do, but the whole point of all these videos is us and other people telling you what we do to reach our goals. And that's, you know, what we talked about there is a perfect example of, we use the techniques that we're talking about, that we will go deeper in throughout this process and in future material, to really help you with getting a great plan in place so that you can action your goal.
That being said, Travis, we killed it.
Like always. You know?
Great job.
Yeah, everybody like, share, subscribe, check us out, and we'll see you next week as we dive into the next step in strategy and planning. See you guys next week.